everyone, just looking over some drawings of a project that I just completed. Welcome to the first ever episode of Science Fiction Create. I'm your host, J. Robert Clark. My friends call me John. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a prop chainsaw from the movie The Evil Dead. Here it is. Built from scratch. A pretty darn close replica of the chainsaw used in that film franchise. If you don't know anything about The Evil Dead, that's okay. There's still a lot to be gained from watching Science Fiction Create in this episode. The movie itself changed horror films forever. It's iconic today, and this chainsaw for horror fans is as recognizable as Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. It's that important in horror movie history. My version is scaled down a bit so that my 8-year-old son can easily carry it. It's still quite hefty. It's pushing upwards of 4 pounds, and it has a really nice look to it. I can still use it, and he can too. He can grow into it over the years. Best part about it, it works. I want to show you how I built it. It's a two-parter. There's a lot of footage. It took me about 40 hours to do. So this first episode is about halfway through that. And then next week's will be the exciting conclusion to the Evil Dead chainsaw. I hope you tune in for both. And I also hope you like and subscribe to Science Fiction Create here on YouTube. This is the first of many projects I'm going to be sharing, not just from movies, but also developing tools, infrastructure for my shop, which I call the lab, as well as important maker tips and even musings on science, science fiction, philosophy, and life. My background is in science, but my passion is in making, and I hope to incorporate both of those in Science Fiction Create. If any of that interests you, I hope you stick around and see what's next. Hey folks, just looking over some of my calculations. I'm going to build this chainsaw based on images that I found online. Here are a few examples. I believe these are a fan-built replica of the Evil Dead chainsaw. Those are amazing. Here's a couple more, along with an actual Homelight XL12 chainsaw from which the Evil Dead chainsaw was based. I'm going to make mine look like the prop chainsaw, but I'm going to make it a bit smaller. It's for my 8-year-old son to use as part of his Halloween costume. Actually, by the time you see this, he will have already worn it for Halloween. What I want to do is scale it down a bit. The thing is, these numbers that I've calculated here that are 70% seem small. So the best way to get a real idea of what this thing is going to look like is to build a model. I love keeping a stockpile on hand. Actually, what I do is I chop up the boxes that I get from Amazon into pieces that are really handy to start doing things like building models. It's really essential for this kind of build. I got to get a three-dimensional concept first. So that's where we're going to go. Here it comes. Here's my model. I'm digging the dimensions. This side looks great. I think the body is a bit wide, and I might trim this down a bit. The challenge I have is it's got to be big enough for my hand to fit in there. It's pretty groovy. But it has to look right on my son, who's about 70% of my size. I want it to look right on him. So I've made a 14-inch bar instead of a 20-inch bar, which is what most of the shots in the Evil Dead series had. This is the motor that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a microcontroller, an Arduino, to both handle the motor, but also some sound effects that are going to go along with it. I need juice for this thing because, you know, walking around the neighborhood at night, you know, my son's going to be going to town on them. So having some sufficient juice. So I'm going to use these 18650 lithium ion batteries. These are great. If you maybe encounter these in various electronics, they're around 3.7 volts. They have a ton of juice. They last a long time. Coupling 3 together in a battery housing like this is going to give me just about 12 volts. These both are going to slide in this side segment. By the way, this is the trigger. And it's variable speed. Okay, moving on. I'm going to translate this now into some sizes to cut on some wood. I have 3 of my 4 pieces cut for my main body. The 4th one, I need to do something a little different because I've got to have a hole to go through. And if I cut this little tiny piece and then try to cut a 3-inch hole out of it, it's gonna be challenging. So I'm gonna do it ahead of time. So I have a piece here that I'm gonna use, and then center on these bad boys. Measure twice, cut once. And what I'm going to do is use a hole saw. I have a couple end pieces of 2x4, and those will be brought down. A backer piece here, so when I do drill through, so here's the hole saw, and it happens to be a 3-inch hole saw. Looks good. There it is. Taped up to have a look. It's come together well. I think that's gonna be just fine. I'm gonna now cut pieces for the other parts as we move along. I'm not gonna start assembling until I get pretty far along with the pieces, because I'm going to have to space and drill things like the handle that goes in here. You stick your hand through and grab that. That's where the trigger will be, as well as where the motor mount will go. Check this out. We're going to be doing some kerf cutting. These are 1/4-inch increments. The goal is to take this piece of 1/8 inch thick stock and move it incrementally, boom, 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 taking a pass each time to cut a groove out of it. Taking stock of where we are. I have the vast majority of the pieces cut. Check this out. So kerfing is when you run the blade across but not all the way through, and you get these nice striations. It allows you to bend wood. And you can do this on stuff far thicker than 1/8 inch plywood, but it's working really well. This is the main body. This is the bottom. I only had to curve part of it because I only have this curve that goes up. Effectively what happens, and that'll be attached. Likewise on the top, CA glue, I think is what I'm going to use, and a number of 1/2-inch brads. So there's the main box. This will be the part that houses the electronics and the power supply. This is the side piece that covers the bar that comes out. My whole last main piece of plywood cutting that I need to do is the bar. A chainsaw bar isn't just straight, it has a belly. I have 2 pieces stuck together. These are going to be the outside. What I've done is I've marked a couple of points here. The circle here is a 1 3/8 circle that fits well for the cog that I'm going to use on the end. Again, I'm using a bicycle chain, not a real chain, because I don't want my son running around with a real chainsaw blade. I'll do this on the bandsaw, but this cut I'm excited about because I'm going to use my taper cut jig that I made for my table saw. Here it is, brand new. What it allows me to do is I can lock down, it's this way, using this bar, and I can cut an odd angle on the table saw instead of having to do a cut perpendicular to the other sides. So we'll get that set up on the table saw and I'll show you how it works. Here's the outside of my bar. Still the 2 pieces are taped together. I've ripped a strip that is a 1/4 inch narrower. So this was 2.5 when I started. This is 2 1/4. I took a center line and you can see, and I have my circle at the end that's gonna be cut out for the gear. And then I put a 1/8 mark on either side of that and then lined the center line up of this one and just moved it down to be able to trace my contour like that. And then I traced that contour and then I slid it up and did the same on the other side. And that'll end up making this thing the same shape, but with like a 1/4 inch section chopped out of the middle. All right, here we are. There's the pieces. This piece on the end here will come off. And that's where that guy's gonna fit. First thing I have to do though is drill that hole. Number 19. A bit of a space issue that's not working out, so I'm doing something a little risky here. I put a 1 inch Forstner bit that's cuts a flat wide hole. This is only 1/8 inch thick, and so I don't have a lot of room. I'm going to be shaving off about a 1/16 on both sides. Hopefully that'll give me the space that I need. I'm going to assemble the blade now using CA glue. Get this thing attached. Just one more shot at these. The relief that I made works on the bearing and not the rest of it. I made some progress off camera and I need to catch up to speed. I was able to get that customized so it would work. But the end where it would attach to the saw became a problem. I was able to rig up a system to mount this motor. What I was having problems with was putting on my gears. These are from a bicycle derailleur. And somewhere here, what I ended up doing was busting out all the guts. And here they are in all their greasy gloriness out of the one that I ended up using here. And through trial and error, was able to rig up a system that is now locked on I can then lock it down with the set screws and attach it here and then bolt that on. So that's one thing. I felt that that was too narrow and it wasn't going to give me the bite that I wanted. So I widened the space and put these nylon spacers in, which fit over the corner 20 bolts, which creates a bit more surface area. That's nice. Now I had the problem of if I put the bolts on, it's not going to lock in. So the solution I came up with there, this aluminum plate, and that's just easily cut thin aluminum sheeting, and I drilled 1/4-inch holes, and that fits snugly on there. And we all of a sudden have a very solid working mechanism for our saw. The chain, again, I'm just using a bicycle chain. Here it is to length, like that, to line up the chain now that it's on, and then to lock it in, it just slides down, and there you have it. Now I have to figure out everything else. Another hole I need will be for the handle that comes out, this side handle. I need a hole that will allow for this receiver to mount somewhere in the vicinity of here. Mark it. Looks like 0.848. Okay, I've made a switch sandwich. The trigger switch, this is going to be the handle. It's the back. I have some reliefs cut in for the wiring to come out. This is the end piece, top and a bottom, and then 3 different thicknesses of plywood for spacers. I'm gonna go ahead and solder on a couple of leads so I'll have plenty of wire to hook it up as necessary. So we'll get all that done and then move on to assembling the main box. I have this drilled and ready to go. I'm really working to make this thing serviceable. And that's why these bolts are inserted from the inside out with the nut will thread on the outside. I have them raised up here a little bit. I'm gonna put a bit of cyanoacrylate CA glue on them and thread them back down in. I'm gonna use CA glue again. And I'm also going to get some brad nails. I need to get my nailer. The benefit of the CA glue is how darn quick it works. The drawback to CA glue is how darn quick it works. My box was a bit out of square, and I had to get a razor knife and break a couple of the joints and square it up a bit, but I think we look pretty good at this point. Now I'm gonna slip a couple of these couple mini of these in here just to give it added strength. Plenty of room with the away from the motor. I think that's going to be just fine. Now to put the top on. I left a bit of a wide swath here, about 1/4 inch, and that's intentional so that I can anchor this firmly. I know this will be fine. Got my nailer handy. Just got to make sure and put these in straight even though it's curved. have this, what I believe is high density polyethylene, and I ran a test swat through it, and the kerf from my saw cuts very nicely. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run a series, and I think I'll double them up, double wide, creating just about a 1/4 inch gap and then a 1/4 inch high, 1/4 inch low, and do that. And it looks like I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 over the span of a 3-inch disc. I'm gonna mark that out, but I think this is gonna work. And then after I get the striations cut in it, I will cut the circle on the bandsaw. Did a thorough sand on the 3 main pieces. The next order of business is going in with wood filler and filling those back in. Let that dry, give it another sand, check for any major flaws that are visible that way, and then I'll put a coat of primer on it. Another light sand, look for flaws. Do that maybe a couple more times to get to a near, I guess a penultimate finish before we start the color paint. I have some components to put together. I'm going to use these thread inserts. I'm going to try and hold this up to the camera. And you can screw them into a piece of wood. I have an example here where I tested it on the 1/4 inch wood that I'm going to be using. What this does is it locks in a set of metal threads that you can then thread in a bolt into it. It'll look like a piece of industrial equipment, a chainsaw, but it'll also be functional. It will allow me to disassemble it, not only to put the electronic components together inside initially, but also take it back apart to modify it or service it or do anything else that I need along the way. Another couple features that it's going to have, I have these end caps, and these are actually 4 bolts. And what these are going to be are the oil and gas caps. So I have a black one for oil and a red one for gasoline. For these two, since they're 1/4 inch bolts, I'm also going to use one of these thread inserts. And the last piece of hardware, and I want to give a shout out to my old standby Radio Shack. It's a sad day now that Radio Shack no longer exists. This is going to be the on-off switch for the saw. Anyway, need a hole for that as well. All right, let's jump in and start doing some layout and drilling. How about that? That's it for part 1 of Evil Dead Chainsaw Build. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're looking forward to next week. Want a sneak peek? Watch this. Something's smoking. Sharpies. Sharpies are another good one. Full discs, a 3-inch and a 2. How can I make this rigid PVC floppy? Filled with freaking hot sand, that's how. Oh yeah. Safety first, kids. All that and more next week on Science Fiction Create.